That's heartbreaking.
That's why we write books, though.
Yeah, that's heartbreaking though for
It is.
somebody, for a father and a grandfather to actually have to leave this country, this planet,
That's why
leave
you
them.
write these.
Yes, it is. It is. But it's such a terrible, terrible, dark thing to see. I mean, treason is the most inscrutable of all crimes because it's impossible really to drill into the mentality of a fellow countryman who does not share your sentiment for your land. It's absolutely beyond comprehension, I think, to the normal person, is to look at somebody and then to then ask, why is it that so many of these reach the higher reaches of politics?
Even the English of even the English invaders of the ascendancy period, it was easier to understand their motives. They came to
Yes.
take the land and be the landlord and, and become the new aristocracy. But
Well,
for Irish to do this to the
I,
Irish,
I honestly think, and I don't mean this really rhetorically, but I mean it literally, really. You mentioned Cromwell. Well, I would regard Cromwell as much less blameworthy in the context of the suffering of Ireland than I would regard Micheál Martin, the present Taoiseach Prime Minister, because he is supposedly Irish. And he is a sacred responsibility to defend his own people, and he has refused to do it. In fact, he is doing the direct opposite. He's attacking his own people on a daily basis. So I would prefer.
but when this boils over, and this is a subject of my novel, when this boils over, the traders are going to have nowhere to go because the foreigners that they've imported aren't going to be a cohesive, loyal group that is going to surround them like a Praetorian Guard.
Mm.
The foreigners that they've brought in will be fragmented. They're deracinated. They're not in their own home country. They're a Tower of Babel that was imported, and
Except,
the Irish are going to rise up, I think, in a righteous anger.
but
It may take
except if,
time.
except if we factor in Michael Yon's thesis, which is that these guys are mostly soldiers, and they're here on false pretenses, and they're here, in mindful of that coming moment when they will be required to police the native population, which they will gladly do, I think,
Right.
from.
And the weapons can be passed out very easily. Cargo container holds enough weapons for a battalion of men that are
Yes,
already in Ireland.
yes, yes.
So
And
the
there are
hard
many,
part
many,
was getting
many,
the men in.
there are many hundreds of thousands of them here. There's only a few thousand Irish soldiers. And even if they could be relied upon to defend the Irish people, which I doubt, seeing as no other institution is prepared to defend its people, I have to say that we're in the direst trouble we could possibly be in.
Right. And it could be an extinction event. Sometimes, um, an animal evolves into being such a useless, flightless thing like a dodo bird that sailors from the West show up and just can walk down the beach clubbing them because they have no defense left. And I wrote a short story called The Alien Orc Way, but it's about these islands that uh, in the South Pacific that the New Zealand sailors found these islands that were completely pacifist. They had abolished all war and fighting, and Maoris that were on these English ships as sailors saw these islands as ripe for the taking and invaded the island. And these very violent Maori warriors completely subdued the peaceful people of these islands, just exterminated them. The people of the island were so convinced that pacifism was the only way for humans to live that young men on the island said, we have to sharpen some bamboo and spears and fight back. And their elders said, no, that we'd be as bad as the Maori invaders.
Well,
They
yeah,
willingly were slaughtered.
I think something very analogous to that is actually at play in our modern countries in Europe and in America, perhaps, but certainly in Europe, whereby we have become so accustomed to civilization and to prosperity and to democracy and to our liberal progressive republics that notwithstanding everything that's happened, most people still are not able to even imagine that it is possible that any bad stuff could happen, that 1984, that Orwell's vision might come true in their country, that Brave New World might erupt at any moment in their country. They think it's fatuous. They think they don't even consider.
Or that thousands of these men could be handed AK-47s.
Yes. It seems unthinkable. That only happens in the movies.
But these are men that came from civil wars across the Middle East. This is one of the reasons that in places like Stockholm and in Berlin, when you have New Year's Eve, instead of firing the fireworks up in the air, they fire the fireworks at Europeans for a laugh,
Yeah.
because to them this is like a harmless little prank, like a RPG that won't actually kill you. It might, but I mean they're firing these big mortar shells that are supposed to explode up in the air. They fire them right down the street at each other and at
Yeah.
Europeans.
You see,
This is
A lot of Irish people are in a mode of self-congratulation at their tolerance and compassion for these guys.
Yeah, the Swedes call themselves a humanitarian superpower. That's like bragging about being, voting for extinction.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. You know, the way that they make, you know, almost illegal the use of words like plantation and replacement and invasion, when in fact they're the only words that fit what's actually going on.
And
You know,
treason and traitor.
yeah, like compassion doesn't fit it. There's no earthly way that you can look at an Irish politician and say that man is overcome by compassion for anybody. It's not true. It isn't true in any case. They're not. It's all pretend. It's all faux compassion, and they're using it to achieve another end. The only mystery for me is how much do they know about the ultimate destination of their actions? I suspect they don't. They're stupid as well. I always give them credit for stupidity because it's a good idea, a good thing to do that. It's almost always a good idea. But nevertheless, we're getting very close now to in-game, so they must be beginning to smell the sulfur that is up around the corner, awaiting for us.
Yeah, I follow various accounts on Twitter from Ireland, and these it's called IPAS,
Yes,
these centers, these migrant centers,
international protection, whatever. But yeah,
yeah, agencies, but they have these rashes of arsons in these places. So the lads are going out with the Molotov cocktails. So somebody's not happy about it.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I follow some YouTube accounts, and I forget the name of the guy's actual name, but he said, when you have absolutely no democratic input to your own invasion, when you have no recourse, you had no input on choosing this, then what do you expect people to do? Just calmly accept these plantations being, when in the Irish context, that's not the same as an American Southern plantation. They're planting these barracks of men, invasion conquest barracks of fighting age men around the country, not just in Dublin, but
Well,
in
here's the thing.
Clonmel and Athlone and Galway and
Yeah.
Sligo, everywhere.
This is the amazing thing that these tyrants who are doing this and they're not asking anybody's opinion or permission. In fact, they're telling people you have no right to veto who comes into your community. Now, that's an absurd notion in the context of 300 people being brought into a town of 175 people. You know, yes, of course, you can't. It's not right if somebody
And
moves
they're all
into.
men in their 20s and 30s.
Yeah, this is the point. I mean, it's not the same as a family moving in next door and you seek to try to block them from getting possession of the house. That would be wrong in most cases. But this is not the same thing. But see, what this is the extraordinary thing, though, that these villains have then acquired the cover fire of the woke contingent, the LGBT gang and the trans gang, and we see this all the time. Even now, even at this late stage in the battle, we see them. They all coming out and they attack anybody who criticizes the government is deemed immediately to be a fascist or a Nazi, and it's a
Well,
quite remarkable thing.
sometimes in this